Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com back with some Pittsburgh Steelers Day 3 draft analysis. It's the long day, rounds 4 through 7, and not obviously quite as consequential as the first 2 days, but still there's a lot of value, a lot of talent. This class, I thought overall was really deep. A lot of the fifth year super seniors who went back to school for 2021, now part of the 2022 NFL draft. So a lot of talent and a lot to talk about. I will briefly run through each of the day three picks here. We'll have a lot more time for, film rooms and deeper analysis on these guys. Starting in round four with Calvin Austin the third, the receiver from Memphis, really the only wild card pick of the draft. And I don't mean that in a bad way, just not a guy that we thought about a whole lot in terms of coming to Pittsburgh, in terms of pre-draft interest and pro day workouts and things like that. But I really like this pick. I think overall for Austin, he's a fun player. He's small, yes, at 5'0", 7'6", a buck 70, but he's not a gadget guy. He's not a Tree Archer type where you have to really try to get him involved. You're not quite sure what to do with him when he comes in the field. You know the ball's going his way. He's a defined receiver. He played an outside receiver spot at Memphis. He's been highly productive the last 2 years. There's a little bit of value in the return game as well. Maybe not quite as much as you would think for a guy of his size and profile and speed. But this is a guy that has really clean releases. He's twitchy. He wins one-on-one matchups. I watched him at the Senior Bowl. And some of those one-on-one situations are obviously heavily biased towards the offense, but just some of the quickness that he has and the speed that he has. He runs to his 40 time. He ran a 4.32. He plays at the time. He was a track guy who first got to Memphis for their track team and also to play football. I mean, he was a zero-star recruit. He was a walk-on for the football team. He says the only reason why went to Memphis was because that was the only team that would let him run track and play football. So he's a competitor as well, and he's been really productive. So I think it's going to work well. He'll probably almost certainly move to this slot much more in the NFL than he did in Memphis. Again, he was more of an outside guy with the Tigers, but adding speed, adding yak ability, adding that big play threat, and also working some of the quick game, the screen game, the RPO game. A lot of RPO slants probably coming Calvin Austin's way. So obviously, size is going to be an issue. Getting off pressure, you have to really work on releases and being really efficient there. You don't want a lot of wasted movement and getting beat up at the line of scrimmage. But to me, it's nice to have that kind of different body type in that room of the not the big power forward type of guy, the Z type of guy, to get this kind of really shifty but fast slot receiver in Calvin Austin. He'll have to work on playing in the slot. He's not super experienced there. There's different nuances to that, obviously, and it's a different picture than when you're playing on the outside in more one-on-one type environments. But to me, a really fun player to watch. Round six, Steelers taking Michigan State fullback, H back, tight end, whatever you want to call him. Connor Hayward. Most people will call him just Cam's younger brother, but I think Connor Hayward's a really good player. When I did the profile on him, it's not like any one trait stuck out in a major way, but this guy, just to use the cliche, is a football player. This guy just made big plays for Michigan State in clutch situations, on fourth down, in red zone type stuff when they needed a big play. When I watched it, I know they had Kenneth Walker. They had an amazing season, but whenever big plays were needed, to me, it was Connor Hayward making the plays for them. And so he's listed as a tight end. Alfredo Roberts, the tight ends coach, came out and did the press conference, and they'll move him around quite a bit, but he's not to me a true inline tight end at all. I mean, I don't think he'll really be playing as that attached wide tight end the way that a Pat Fryermuth or Zach Gentry does. This guy's under 6 foot with sub 32-inch arms at roughly 235, 240 pounds. It's not a tight end that's going to play in line. Maybe occasionally in some really heavy personnel, he'll get motion out. Derek Watt did some of that in the past, but not somebody who's going to work in that role. What he will be is the H back type that Kevin Colbert talked about, a fullback type, someone that can be spread out and detach from the line and play in that stand up slot type of position. He did that quite a bit at Michigan State. He can play a little bit of running back as well. He was a running back with the Spartans before switching and moving to tight end for 2021. But overall, his hands are really good. Like he catches the ball cleanly away from his body. Watched him one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl. Just a consistent, natural catcher of the football. And he's got decent speed for his. He had an 80-yard touchdown against Maryland a couple of years back. So I think he ran 4.72. Might play a bit faster than that and kind of shows a bit of a second gear. But what he'll do is he'll bring a lot of value in some of the screen game, in the play action game, in the boot game for sure as a blocker, and then certainly should become at least a fourth phase core special teamer and stick on the roster that way. So Wasn't necessarily a need, but you just get a good football player in the sixth round. I'm not too mad about that. He'll compete with Derek Watt. Is that a two dogs, one bone situation? Potentially. Could this team try to, keep both, which they did years back with Rosie Nix and Will Johnson without a true number three tight end on the roster right now? They could. Again, don't envision Heyward as an inline tight end, but if you just want to add talent and options and some flexibility, I like Heyward, and there is certainly some offensive value there, certainly more than what Derek Watt provides. Round seven with the Steelers' first seventh round pick taking Mark Robinson, the linebacker from Ole Miss. Really was not on the radar of a lot of draft guys. We talked about him and knew about him because he was brought in for a pre draft visit. So Pittsburgh drafting one of those guys they met in person now that they have those pre draft visits back leading up to the draft. He was a running back at Presbyterian, transferred, had to sit out a year at Ole Miss, and then played linebacker. Moved to linebacker, played there 2021. I had 91 tackles, 5.5 for a loss, and 3 sacks. And so he's really new to the position. Obviously, I haven't watched him in particular. I did not do the draft profile on him for Steelers Depot, but undersized at 5'11 and a half, about 230 pounds. Didn't test particularly well, ran a 4.65. There wasn't a lot of, high level athleticism in the way that he tested, but he's definitely a big hitter. I mean, he plays downhill, he's physical, he's a tough dude. And so you kind of see some of those traits that can make him a thumper on special teams. And so that's probably where his ceiling is at. I think there is certainly some comparison to Vince Williams in terms of the overall size profile and makeup and mentality, but I'm not expecting this guy to become the next Vince Williams. If he does, fantastic, but probably special teams will be his calling card. I'm betting he'll have to spend his first year on the practice squad because he is so new playing linebacker. It's going to be tough to really show a lot of defensive value and try to get a helmet and get a roster spot. But with a bunch of those linebackers becoming free agents next year, Devin Bush will be one, assuming his fifth year option is declined. We'll find out Monday. Robert Spillane, UG3, Marcus Allen, those guys are all slated to be free agents. That room could look a lot emptier, a lot different this time a year from now. So Robinson, probably more of that quote unquote stash guy. We'll see what happens. He could impress in training camp and preseason, running down kicks and punts and get a spot through Danny Smith. But I think he'll be a guy that'll take a year on the practice squad. And with the team's final seventh round pick, they took quarterback Chris Oladokun from South Dakota State. You guys saw my mock draft. The one thing I got right in my mock draft was the team's final pick. They're taking two quarterbacks. I knew that was an unusual move, and it's not happened often, but it has happened before. And with Pittsburgh needing that fourth quarterback on the roster, they had shown interest in Old Duncan at his pro day, brought him in for a pre-draft visit, and probably did not want to try to compete with the undrafted, free agent frenzy of trying to sign him. Pittsburgh with the UDFA money, they don't really spend money the way that other teams do. Old Duncan was in demand. He probably would have gotten a much better contract somewhere else. And so I am not surprised in the least to see this guy come in. From his overall, play standpoint, he's got a good arm overall. He's athletic. I thought he just kind of ran the offense well this past year at South Dakota State. He can roll to his left and still throw on the run with accuracy. He's got to work with playing under center. Really didn't do much of that this past year. He's got to be a bit more composed under pressure, not bail on clean pockets and things like that. But he has some of the physical and mental tools overall, so I think there is something to work with. The negatives on Old Duncan just have to clean up some of the consistency and pocket presence and dealing with pressure and things like that. And again, being quicker, getting away from center. You saw kind of that discomfort at the NFL PA Bowl. Also benefited pretty greatly from that really strong rushing attack. South Dakota State, they ran for over, I think, 3,000 yards this year. Pierre Strong drafted this weekend. Their top guy, but another guy that ran for a bunch of yards, averaged over 6, 7 yards per carry. And so he got to be in a lot of more manageable situations when in quarterback life was a lot easier when your team's running for a buck 50 and 200 a game. When you saw instances in the playoffs, whenever they got behind, they couldn't really run the ball that much. You saw old Duncan predictably struggle a bit more. And his career arc overall is a bit strange. Two high schools, three colleges, started at UCF and then transferred to Sanford and then moved to South Dakota State. Never really could hold down that starting job for whatever reason. So you do kind of wonder what the story is there, but he'll come in and be that fourth quarterback for Pittsburgh. So that is the Pittsburgh Steelers 2022 NFL Draft. I'll do a separate video kind of recapping the entire class myself after kind of watching some more guys and just marinating on the past 3 days a little bit more. But definitely really like the receiver picks of Pickens in the second round, Austin in the fourth round. And again, no real surprise in this one overall. Austin to a degree, but Heyward and Robinson, Ola Duncan, Leal, Pickett. You didn't know exactly what quarterback they were going to take, but certainly Pickett makes sense there. So pretty much in line with what we expected. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What grade would you give the Steelers draft? What are your overall thoughts? Your favorite pick, your least favorite pick? Maybe a sleeper in this class. What maybe the rest of the AFC or AFC North in particular, Baltimore's drafts, good as they always are. But anyway, we'll keep it focused on Pittsburgh. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll talk to you soon.